Hello. Back to the painful silence of not having music. I just want you to know that it took me maybe an hour and a half to both find music that is potentially licensable for stream, and also to like wade through how to get it in OBS and like read through the license and make sure I won't uh, blow anything up. So potentially there will be music in the future. But that little intro was an experiment to see if YouTube would blow up the channel and slap me with a content ID, or Twitch would, but we'll see. That's part of the experiment. I just realized you can see me shaking the desk because the window in the background like glimmers a little bit because my camera is fixed to my monitor. Anyway, quick elevator pitch intro, which I'm getting hopefully better at over every time I do it, is I'm making a melee movement shooter game where you stuff Doomfist from Overwatch and Mario 64 Mario into a first-person controller, and then have them chase this person that stole something from you. And you crash into stuff and you punch stuff and you break things to move faster, and it's just generally a fun game. Hopefully. Time will tell. So I will need to make that elevator pitch better. But last time, for the past couple 2-ish days, we've been working on getting this kind of player controller state diagram in a satisfying place before actually implementing it, and kind of spending a bunch of time tuning and implementing it. This is essentially like a way to sanity check my imagination, to be like, okay, I want the player to be able to punch and charge a punch and do an uppercut, and I want them to be able to dive, and I want them to be able to hold things and throw things, but I only want them to have 2 buttons, a punch button and a dive button. How do I want to do that? So this is like, that's how this imagination is made a little more concrete and a little more rule based. Plus, this will be much easier to implement than just like your imagination. So the initial idea was, let's do a full state diagram, every specific state, as specific as it gets. But it was getting messy, so I split it out to a hand state machine, just so this covers like punching and charging your punch and clapping and things like that. And then today, which is almost, I think, done, there's some to-dos in here, which I think will be easier to decide once I have the rest of it done. They are, I think, will be minor decision points that are just mostly game feel. Like if you are in Overwatch, you can charge up a punch and it'll send you flying. But if you hold the charge for too long, eventually it'll just force you to release the punch. But I don't know how that'll feel in like a single player mobility game, right? It might be better to give some other options if you overcharge. But yeah, that's where most of the to-dos are. Okay. And then I need to clean this up because I didn't pull out the fist stuff yet, the punching. And so a lot of this is redundant. Like this state doesn't exist in this state diagram. It'll exist in this one over here. So what actually does this cover? We don't care about this state anymore. We don't care about this anymore. Don't care about this anymore. And there was the idea to, actually before I continue, I wanted to give a bit of extra context on what the plan is for the stream, because I was pondering this last night when I was supposed to be working on the game, and I wasn't. So plans for stream. This is going to be like my attempt to organize what's happening. I've lost control of this document. Okay, here we go. Here's the idea. Primary objective is, and will always be, I say always like I know, make the video game. That's number one priority. The stream will exist to pressure me to work on the video game. It's like a class presentation in the morning. Like, my brain just won't let me not think about it. If I have people or just the idea that people could be expecting something out of me, it'll kind of force my brain to think about it. So one, that's like the primary purpose of me even streaming to 0 people, is to make the video game. And that it's as easy as that. And then the second kind of priority for stream related decisions is there's kind of 2 parts, and I don't know which one should be ordered in front of the other. So I will put, I don't know, maybe trust building first. In this modern day and age, I think media will lean further into trusting like individual creators that you know over like no name or like faceless creators. Just because, well, I guess faceless doesn't really matter, but like creators you don't know or can't trust yet. As AI is becoming like more and more prevalent, it's just harder to know what is real and what is not. So this kind of side benefit is not only am I pressuring myself to work on a video game, I'm also trying to build like a repository of trust. That's like, okay, like, you know, this isn't AI slop because I streamed the whole damn thing, or at least most of it. So that's number 2. And number 3 is respecting your time. So this is, I would say number 1 can also be called respecting my time, because it's a way for me to like essentially pressure myself into using my time like I would want to use my time, but am tempted to not. Like YouTube will always try and pull me away from working because that's just the nature of like media consumption. And so I also don't really want to waste your time if you're here. So the plan is to split stream into like 2, like the way this manifests itself is to split stream into 2 kind of scenarios. One is, and this is what I've been mostly doing, is like this green background where I'm pretty much talking most of the time. I don't know if I'll put background music because then I feel like I'll sit and listen to it and just be quiet. But I want there to be like active listening and participation time, and time for me to essentially talk through designs. I suppose the listening and participation part is contingent on there being people to do that. But the second part of that is the active time is for me to just talk things through, which will be effective regardless of how many people are here. And the second background, which you haven't even seen yet, which I haven't had it used for, is this red one. It's very inspired, I know. I have some reservations about it, but the red one will be for focused work, where I would still, of course, welcome like chat and questions and such, but I want it to be a mode where I can be essentially a second monitor, if any, where I'm just listening to music and working. I think having this kind of potential audience or this class presentation to show things to is a good motivator. But I don't know if it will be sufficient for me to work on things. So this second mode of not really talking too much, maybe listening to music and just working, could be another means to get me to work on the game instead of succumb to like a YouTube addiction and just like brain rot away in my chair. So that's the idea behind respecting your time. Is if you look at the stream and you see a single frame and it's green, it's like, okay, he's going to be talking about things. He's going to be primarily talking about design or with chat or something. And if you see red, it'll be not because you are angry at me or something, but because the vibes will just be chiller. It'll mostly be focus work. If you would like to use the opportunity to be like, okay, I'll just use this opportunity to listen to the same music and get work done myself, fantastic. Even better for you. I think that would be nice. But I think the general trend of a stream will be starting with this green, like, active time. And then either it will end or it will move into a red kind of focus stream where you can be reasonably confident that it will never move back to green from red, just because I don't think I have the vocal cords or the brain power to go from green, active, talking and streaming and designing, to red, like working through and focusing, and then back to green. I don't think I have it in me at the moment. So we'll see how that goes. I also need to type those out, which I don't know. And then we'll do red, focus, work, background, music. So you can think about it in another way. It's like, oh, is this a part of the stream I want to watch? Is this a part of the stream I want to just listen to? Or is this a part of the stream I want to just abandon because I don't really care? And I'm not particularly interested in seeing someone else stare at a screen. That is, understandable. So that's the plan. I figured I should cover that when there's nobody here. That was a joke, but I thought about it more, and I think that might actually be the best time to do it. Because now I have this screen to show. Oh, it's all text, right? Okay. I have this screen to show, and no one had to see me do it. Wonderful. Stream plan. Okay, and then you put one of these in here. You put an arrow. Okay. I would like to make a better elevator pitch slide, because I think it's already happened where people will come in and be like, oh, what's the game idea? And then I do like the weird cringe elevator pitch that's like, oh, so you take Doomfist from Overwatch, which is a game I know you've played, surely. And then you take Mario from Super Mario 64, a game made... Don't tell me it was 30 years ago. I need you to not tell me it was 30 years ago. Don't be 30. Under 30, we're chill. No. Oh, 1996. June 1996. Is that just over 30 years? We're in 2025. No, it's just under. Oh, yeah. I'm not old. Okay, this is it. This is the master plan. My thesis for trust audience building. I actually think I want this to be, I think that's less important than respecting your time. Okay. Okay, wonderful. I like this. Okay, so the plan for today is, I kind of already went over it, but I will go over it again for me, is to fix up these state machines, clean them up, and then if that is done relatively quickly, like within the next 45 minutes or so, potentially move on to kind of level design themes that we can use to utilize these like player controllers. So stuff like what could a tutorial world look like, or what could a simple first level look like? What kind of patterns can I use for enemy development or placement within a level? Like how can I give optional difficulty segments? How can I keep the skill floor low? Like how can I make it easy for people to play the game, but make it fun for people to get really good at the game? Kind of those sort of design toolkits, I think will be super nice to have. And honestly, that's like the most fun thing to think about. When you are just like imagining things and just like in your imagination space and you don't have to write code to do it. That's the most fun part of making games, I think. So yeah, if we finish this, we'll go do that. And then my reservations I mentioned them earlier, but the second thing that I also considered doing was starting to write this player controller. And my reservation was, I don't know if I'm smart enough to do it on stream. I think I will be like giving myself a panic attack trying to program and talk, because I don't have any background music prepped for hours of looping music. So I don't think I'll do that today. Just for your awareness. Okay, also this is good to do. I did not do this either. We'll clean up these to-dos as well. These ones we'll address when we make the game, or the player controller. Okay. I am tempted to just start this over, but... So, really, most of this... Uh-oh. Is there another state I'm missing? What happens when you're in a charge punch? That might be another state. Put this up here as well. So, secondary, this is addressed by the other state machine. So is this. This one is not. This one is split. When you dive, that's when you reach your hands out, crash into a crystal. It's a secondary attack. But the dive needs to be here, which is fine. I wonder if charge punch is anything special, or it's considered just moving. If you're just moving... Okay, I guess the real question is, what do I want to happen? What is this? This is just an empty layer. Yeah, you can see those. Okay. Yeah, well... I don't know. Let's do it on a new layer. What happens if you... Or what should happen if you are charging a punch and you're running? should you, when you release the punch, be propelled forward in like a straight-ish line, where your movement, that's not where A is, where your movement is like ignored, so you just move in a straight line? Or should you be able to move with the charge punch? This is kind of for reference. For Doomfist in Overwatch, you have very little control when you're actually punching. It's mostly like you pick a direction, you release the punch, you go that direction along the ground, or in a straight horizontal line if you're in the air. But I don't like that fixed. It also gives you like a fixed velocity. I don't think that really fits. For one, the fixed velocity would kind of screw up a lot, because it would immediately kill any sort of momentum you had. So the fixed part of it we can just set aside. But the locking your movement part, that one I don't know. It almost feels like if you're on the ground, this might be a situation where you just try both when you're riding the player controller and you just see how it feels. Yeah, okay. We'll do that. So we put another to do gross font. See how it feels to lock when charge punching. When releasing charge punch. Okay. Because I can, I don't know. We'll see. Okay. And then let's see, what else is there? I feel like I had something in mind, but I don't remember what it was earlier today. Right, okay. There's more. So part of the initial spec, those were two different sentences, by the way. So I'll just ignore those and I'll start a new one. What wasn't part of the initial spec was crouching. Just, like standing still. You know what crouching is in a video game. You just, with a stick figure it's kind of hard, but your hitbox shrinks. You can move under and through gaps because you're short. The initial spec didn't include this because I didn't think it was particularly important, because we already had a slide planned, like a penguin dive, Mario 64. You can just slide and that will be short, and you will be short when you slide. But it occurred to me, if you aren't moving very fast, you can't slide. Like there's no real good way to do that. So there could be an opportunity to put a crouch, but I don't like it. It's an extra button, and it's an extra button exclusively for the edge case where you are moving slowly and you don't have the wiggle, like you don't have the space to get a penguin dive or a slide. But I don't like that. I don't like introducing an entire new control for just that. Especially when crouches are often used to transition into a slide, but we already have a slide. So I wonder if instead of where even Okay, yeah. I wonder if we just put a little crawl in. Like you can dive and then you can like penguin crawl. So if you're moving slowly when you're, belly to the floor. Yeah, okay. That seems reasonable. I don't know how I feel about releasing secondary. It seems like you might be holding it for too long. Okay. Also, I'm going to use... what is happening here? I'm going to use this color, which I think is orange, for like check game feel to-dos. And that'll be... okay. And then we will put a new box. I think this is a new separate state. For, call it belly crawl maybe. I don't know the word for it. Oh, okay. For a second I thought the music was still going. I was gonna lose it. I wasn't aware of this, but by default, OBS doesn't play the music through your speakers. Like if you add a media source to OBS and then you play it like you do with a song, it'll just start playing into the output, but not through your speakers. Like there's no default monitoring. So there was like a brief terrifying moment where like you have the there's like audio bars. Hold on. Is this gonna screw everything up if I take a screenshot? Oh, surely not, right? Whoop. I don't know if you heard that even. There's like, that's crazy, I can just paste it into here. There's like these audio bars, right? The music was like, I've never seen the bar look so angry. It was like full red. The whole thing. The whole bar was filled. So I'm glad I did not try that when I was actively streaming. Okay, anyway. And then we will go up to this. How would you get up from a belly crawl? Should you be holding down the dive button while you're crawling? That seems kind of annoying. I think it falls into this same bucket, honestly. We'll have to try these. Okay, and then this kind of resolves our crawl issue because... oh, whoops, that's the wrong... just this one. We'll do this instead. Okay. But it doesn't resolve the initial question, which is what happens when you dive punch. I guess the solution was kick the can down the road and do it when you're riding the controller, which is fine. Okay. Let's see. Yes. There's some undefined stuff here. Like what happens when you can move here, you can look around. Can you punch When you're grounded on your belly, presumably, I don't see why not. Maybe not straight down. Well, I guess why bother? Why limit that? There's no reason to limit that. Maybe. Guy who speaks confidently like he knows the future. I'm kind of tempted to just call it here. Because this is already, I think, almost fully separate, right? Okay, let's look at this through the lens of, I don't know, what happens when you're punching? Can you punch in this state? Yes. Does it change anything about punch if you're walking? No, I don't think anything is special. What about when you're moving? No. The only thing that changes when you're moving is you can dive, which is here, and is also here. Yes. So that's covered. What about here? What's different? Well, you're in the air, first of all. You can still punch. It depends if your hands are outreached or not, but those states are covered here. The difference between like outreach and punch, like those are covered. What else can you do? It's nice doing this when you only have 2 buttons. It makes the surface area smaller on each state, which is nice. Yes, and you're in the air, which you can just go back to idle if you release, and you can charge it down here. Okay, that's fine. In the air, this is largely the same. There are some shenanigans here about your hitbox. Like when you're in the air, it'll be maybe more vertical. Maybe I'll shrink it when you're diving, so it's just shorter. But that seems like a game feel thing too. Your camera will definitely move. That looks like a speaker. But your hitbox, we'll have to see how it feels. But again, I don't think this changes much about your punching ability. That isn't covered in this condition. Oh, you know what? I think there is a transition here that I missed. No, because you need both hands available. No, we're good. We're chilling. Yeah, because this implies that one of your hands is on cooldown or being used. Okay. That's fine. I know I'm forgetting a big half, which is if you're holding something or on contact with the enemy or if you're getting hit stun. Okay. I will be back in a moment and think about those. Honestly, when I go AFK for a second, that might be a good opportunity to try new songs and see if they blow up the stream. YouTube says we're chilling, so I'm good. Okay, a couple of to-dos to clean up. Interactions with sliding. I think largely sliding will kind of take away your ability to like move with WASD. It might have different strafing feel, but largely it'll be like you're a penguin on ice. Because I know how that feels. Of course. Who hasn't been a penguin in a previous life? Okay. I think this... What other interactions could there be? Oh, okay, this is interesting. So, one of the plans was when you're... Okay, yeah, this is a weird edge case too. Or it could be. When you are diving and you're, facing forward, like this lovely stick figure, you're technically in the air. And one of the ideas was to have like a down air, like a punch straight down attack, that if you do it right before you hit the ground, does like an AoE, like Hero's Landing, Shockwave kind of thing. So would that be possible if you're in this diving state? This assumes no, just because it takes you out of the state if you release dive. But I'm thinking it might be fun to let that happen anyway. In Mario, I don't know if there's a way to get out of the dive. Like when you click dive, he'll do, I don't know what he looks like. He looks like, his silhouette looks vaguely like this, kind of like a bird. And then he goes and hits the ground. But you can't exit this state. These are his shoes. Looks kind of like a jalapeno. You can't exit this state. Once you hit dive, you're in a dive until you land. Or die, I guess. So what if we do that, rather than being able to swap between upright and diving in the air? The trade-off is, in Mario, you are third person. When you dive, it locks, more or less, your direction. So you can't, like, if this is an overhead view, if you're diving this way, you can't, like, rotate around and then face this way, right? You're kind of stuck moving. I say stuck, but you might have a little wiggle room on like small rotations, but you're more or less stuck until you hit the ground. Would that feel terrible in first person? I'm kind of biased to think that anything that locks your camera and stops you from moving is kind of, I don't want to say cringe because that's a strong word, but kind of unexpected as a player. It never feels great to have your camera locked. I wonder how that would feel. I think maybe that's a case of to do lock player into dive until I don't really like locking the player into dive. the more I think about it. Because I want, pretty much because of the existence of a down air and the idea of like pogoing off of an enemy. Like if you're in the air, I think, I don't know if this is red or purple, but that looks maybe purple. If you're in the air and you like bounce off of this enemy, like that's what the down air is for you to be airborne and then get another like mobility option. You would essentially punch this thing in the head, and then you would go up. But if you are locked into a dive, does that remove that option? Yeah, I mean, the alternative is letting the player use every other move while they're diving, but then what's the point? Like, there's no benefit to dive. Like, it doesn't change anything, I guess. If you can still take every like hand action, you can still like punch, you can still charge a punch or outreach or down air. Like, what is dive doing then? Yeah, I think dive will be tied to outreach when you're in the air. Now, should that be also true when you're on the ground? This is another point where I don't know if thinking about it is really going to get me anywhere. Yeah, this is another like... Okay, I think this is good. Kind of getting the boundaries of what is possible to think through rather than just play through. It's good to find those boundaries. Should the player do one-hand actions? My typing might be louder than my voice now that I think about it. Typing in air, on the ground. Does it matter? Okay. We will look at this. Okay. We can erase these. Okay, now the other... So that's kind of thinking about sliding. We can erase this. Another one is how enemies fight back and the possibility of hit stun, which I think will probably throw you into idle for this graph. I don't really think there's any reason. Yeah, all of this is pretty temporary. It can just throw you into idle. That's fine. It'll cancel whatever attack you have and just throw you back to idle. I like that. This one's a little weirder. Obviously, if you're in the air, it's not like an enemy will stun you out of the air. Like at best, it'll just knock you into the ground, which is fine. I don't think it's necessarily... Like anything could do that. The gravity could do that. I don't think enemies are special in that way. The one exception could be... Oh, what the heck? Could be diving. That one might knock you into just in air. I don't know. That's another to do. Should enemy hit stun, remove dive. Okay. Take player out of in air dive. Okay, grounded slide. Maybe that applies to all dives. Like if you're crawling on your belly. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it feels. Okay. That's okay. Okay, this is the scariest one. So part of the game is... We can delete. Did I write that down? Yes, I did. Okay. We can delete all this then. I missed it. My brain is struggling. Yeah, part of the game is grabbing things. Where'd it go? It's not here. Well, it's kind of here. So we've talked about the dive a little bit. But the neat part about dive is that if you crash into an enemy, you can grab a chunk of it if you kill it. And then you'll be holding something, which is all sorts of interesting. You can hold all sorts of things. And then the question then becomes, well, how does this spaghetti nightmare change if you're holding something in one hand? And the question is, or the answer, I guess, is not that much. You'll just be holding something when you do it. For punching, I had this diagram yesterday. Your two arms will be on separate cooldowns. And so if you're holding something, one will just be permanently on cooldown, essentially. But nothing else changes. And the way the charge times are set up, they are longer than the cooldown period, so you're guaranteed to always have a fist available if you're charging it. That is an assumption, and I'm sure that will bite me later. But in any case, your left hand can essentially be on cooldown safely. If you're holding something. And so these I even labeled, you can't even read that. Monitor too big. Honestly, I should maybe make you, we're doing this live. You, hold on, a little bigger? Can I center you? Transform, center. I guess that's a little bigger. Anyway, I'll just try and zoom in more. These are right only, because that allows us to have left hand free for holding things. And then we already have throw in here. You can down air with an item. It'll be almost like you're dunking, which could be fun. Nothing about that changes. Yeah, so it actually doesn't change anything at all with this state diagram, which is nice. This one, though, I also don't think it changes. Yeah. I wonder, maybe the solution is to let you not punch and move at the same time when you're crawling. Because I don't know if you've ever tried to, like, penguin, I don't know, belly crawl? I think belly crawl. I don't know if you've ever tried to do it, but it's not easy. I don't know if I could do it without my arms. Were I a more courageous or experienced streamer, I might get on the floor and do it and try it. But it's day 4, brother. That's not happening today. And then if you wanted to punch while you're crawling, you had to either be actively sliding. Well, you can't just move your movement keys and use your punch at the same time. That might be interesting. We'll put that in here as a to-do. Lock, punch, and vice versa when okay, that could be fun. And then that also applies Does that also apply when you're holding something and you're not hands-free? I mean, you can like kind of wiggle. So maybe that's okay. Yeah, I think that's okay. Okay, I don't think this is actually that crazy then. It turned out pretty, I say pretty simple, but not that bad. Not nearly as bad as it was the first day. It was getting pretty bad. And then this leaves us with only like prototyping to-dos. Do you want to move this just a little bit? And then we will label this. Are you extra large? Oh my goodness. Okay. This is fine, I think. Hold on, give me a moment. Okay. I'm sure this will change. I'm confident of it even. There's just, it won't turn out quite right. I know that will be true. Okay. Now what? Now I save this because I don't want to lose it. Even though it's technically, it's recoverable because it's like, it's being recorded. So I could just like never save anything. But it's easy enough. Okay, let's look at level design elements, because my brain isn't quite ready to program. It would be kind of funny if I didn't know how to program. And this whole, like I just do, I'm sure there's a movie where this happens, but I don't remember the name of it at the moment. I just make excuses for it, and then I just build this entire like design document, and months pass and you just never see any code ever. And then I go, I'm sorry. Like it's time to end stream forever. I'm ashamed. Don't worry, we'll get there. I'll prove to you that I can write code. But for today, you don't know. You have no clue. Okay. Level design elements. I think this is kind of overlapping with game feel. Like what do I want or not game feel. Well, kind of. Like the user experience. Like what do I want the player to feel when they play the game? I want them to be what do I want them to be? It'd be cool if they had fun, but that's a cop-out answer. I want them to feel mobile. I want them to see enemies and obstacles as a means to mobility. I want them to not treat enemies as something that should be avoided, but that as something that should be approached. For a melee exclusive game, because you can throw, technically. I don't want you to cower away from an enemy. I want you to kind of take the level in your hands and exploit it as much as you can. However those opportunities may present themselves. Exploiting. I want you to feel strong. I don't want you to be I want you to feel like when you punch, you are making an impact. Um, I want you to feel like, who's this deck for? This deck is for me, I guess. I suppose is the most is the best answer. I'm making like a, well, it says in the title, a movement shooter game, but I'm trying to eke out or be specific on what I want the level design to be like. So I'm not just vibe placing enemies and objects and hoping it's fun. I would, if I can, like intentionally build a level to kind of fulfill some or all of these. And to give you like the, a welcome in. The kind of elevator pitch for this is if you mixed like Doomfist from Overwatch 2 with like Mario 64 and plopped that character into like a first person environment, what would that feel like? So at the moment we have this big, I say big, but it's not that bad, character controller that kind of defines like, oh, you can punch into things, you can grab things, you can dive, and you can uppercut, and we have a big sort of suite of mobility tools. But then with a character controller like that, that's centered around like punching things and diving and being airborne, like how do you design a level to kind of give the player a reason to use those tools? So I think a lot of these are fine. They're not really very prescriptive. Like if I look at these, it doesn't really give me much in the way of, oh, how do I make a level that does this? Okay. I want them to be able to play the game at any skill level, but that's not really a desired experience. No, I think this is fine. Yes, and I want you to not only feel mobile, but feel pressured. Not pressured. Do I want them to feel like they need to go fast? One of like the inspiring visions was like a chase sort of scenario where something has been stolen from you and you have to like chase them through a level and catch them, kind of like if you've played Super Mario Sunshine. I don't remember what the name is, but essentially like Bowser Jr. I guess spoiler warning, I suppose, but it's like 20 years old, so there's some sequences where you chase Bowser Jr. around the map, and the level ends the moment you catch him. Like you don't actually have to play through the whole level; it just ends when you catch him, and it tends to get easier as the level progresses. So that regardless of your skill level, like you'll end up catching him eventually. But the better you are at the game, the faster you can go, the faster you can catch the big baddie. The kind of caveat there is it means the really skilled players won't actually play most of your level because they'll catch the bad guy too fast, which I think is something to watch out for. So in those sort of situations, like the player does feel pressured to go quickly because like the music is fast and upbeat. This bad guy is like literally running away from you with something you want. Like there is every motivation to go fast. But I wonder if there's a better way to give you that experience without cutting the level short when you catch like the target. I don't know. Something to think about. Back to, not you. What are you? Okay, we can put you here. Okay. Feel mobile. Okay. And flexible. Okay, these are kind of not helpful. So we're going to maybe we'll make some placeholders. Whoops. Placeholders. Design elements. Okay, patterns. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Design patterns. We'll just call it level design patterns. That works. Move you here. Okay. Level. What do I want? I want there to be why is it so big all of a sudden? Okay. I want there to be, I can't believe it. Changes the size of my text. Changes the size of your text. Why are you so annoyed with me? Yeah, whatever. Okay. Okay. Might be one of the most annoying things I've ever seen. Okay. I want the big, another kind of motivation was rhythm games, if you played them, they tend to, whoops, you aren't in a layer. One of the kind of foundational mechanics in a rhythm game, it's not here, I erased it. Okay, well, I'll draw it again. Is you have like your lanes, and then you have your, control board where you press buttons. These are out of order, I'm sure. But the kind of main message I want to get across is you have these like strings of beats that are coming towards you, and they move down over time, and you press the button. You just time it. Press the button and time it, and you get points, and you don't lose. That's like the foundation of most rhythm games. And so we can kind of pull from this, right? If we go back to you, one of the, maybe not most, one of the important parts that I imagine will be present in just about every level will be like strings of enemies that let the player perform combos. So if you have like a crystal here, hold on, we swap and then we make this. Okay, if you have the ground and maybe you have like a tall thing, I mean Sonic does a great job with this too. Well, they do this, but if you have like a series of obstacles, you can punch into this one, or maybe you're supposed to jump and bounce off of this one and bounce off of this one, bounce off of this one. It's essentially like how you organize and place these enemies is going to change how the player navigates through the level, right? And in most, or at least the Sonic games I can think of, it's pretty linear. There's never, actually, I don't think that's true for the newer ones, but or even the older ones. They actually do a bunch of weird routes in Sonic, but they're not really enemy based. It's mostly the like level geometry that does it, which is actually important to think about too. Tree that encourages multiple routes. This is my excuse for why I am around video games so much, because you can just pull things from other games. Honestly, this is like the core of it, right? You want strings of enemies that let the player sound. Does that sound? I don't know if that's grammatically correct, but I suppose it doesn't matter. Strings of enemies that let the player perform combos. and then geometry that encourages multiple routes. I think those are core. Yeah. I don't think that will change. How many different ways can I find synonyms for that phrase? I don't know. I think it will be easier to think about level design once there is, to think, I guess, more specifically about it, once I have a character controller working. Because once I can run around in a flat world, then it'll become much more obvious what kind of the character is capable of in the first place. Like, is a level that, looks like this the same one we saw earlier? According to, like, this character controller, like, it's certainly possible to do. Like, there are mechanics for bouncing off of enemies, but in a first-person context, that could be super awkward. Trying to land, like, 3 in a row. I don't know. So I think in a broad sense, I think these will always be important. But the more specific patterns, I don't know yet. Okay, I think we can think about some level objectives as well, because that's kind of gnawing at my brain a little bit. The initial vision was the levels being chase sequences, but now that I've thought about it a little bit more, and the idea of cutting the level short when the player catches the bad guy, I'm not really a fan of, because it almost feels like the best players will play the least of your game, which I don't really like. I would prefer if the highest skill level players were able to do the most. They were able to show off, like, things that maybe casual players just didn't see or didn't get to. The idea that you could play through a video game for the first time and go like, oh, that was a good time. Like, I wonder what the speedrun looks like. I wonder what the world record looks like. And you go and it's just like every level that took you 5 minutes, it takes them 30 seconds. Not because they traversed it so quickly, but because they just cut it short. Almost feels like it would be a letdown, which I would like to avoid. So, originally I didn't want to directly do, like, oh, you just get to the flag at the end of the level. But I guess there is, like, a great reason that a bunch of games do that. And that's because it means you have to play through the level. How do you get to the flag without playing through the whole level? Glitches notwithstanding. Okay. I guess we'll just roll with the obvious ones. Get to the end. Kill all the enemies. Collect all of something. I'm not super happy with these. I think there is room to do something funner or more unique here. But I will just let my subconscious be creative, and then I will take credit for it when I wake up in the morning and like, oh, here's a good idea. That's always nice. Okay. I think this is good for today. I think the kind of where I started the stream, which was probably, an hour and a bit ago, was first segment would be kind of green background, active talking, designing. Second segment, if any, would be red background, mostly just me being quiet and not talking, 90% of the time. And that, of course, requires background music, which I don't have yet. It's a work in progress. I've read a lot of licensed text this morning. I'm tired. And then it'll just end. I think that's the best schedule I can think of at the moment. But today it's just an end. Today I'm done. I'm donezo. Here's what I will set myself up for either success or failure tomorrow. I will start implementing that character controller today. And we will see if I can't get something working. If not by tomorrow, then I don't know. I actually am not going to give a date because that is a dangerous precedent to set. Okay. Thank you for watching if you did. Thank you for listening if you didn't. Feel free to follow if you like. I've been doing every day. If it will continue, I don't know. Streams tend to be an hour or so, an hour or two. That could change in the future. I don't know. Big bunch of question marks. Really, the only motivating factor here is I want to make a video game. And that's will always be the highest priority. Okay, see you next time. Wait, I don't have an ending stream scene. You're just gonna have to chill with the loading one.